Hey, my beautiful bitches, it's me, Fiona St. James, and welcome to another episode of Fiona's Coffee Talks. And as always, I like to start off every day with a fresh, hot, black cup of coffee. Hold the cream! I'd love to. Of course, in my favorite mug, which is the logo of my channel. Coffee with no Kahlua. Big surprise, right? Anywho, so today's topic is, drumroll, it's another story time. And this one I'm going to call Shirley, Squirrely. If you remember the last story time that I did, that one was called Bye Bye Birdie. Suddenly there's like all of these animals happening in my life. So the last one actually took place in my parents' apartment. This story actually happened in this apartment. So I'm going to set the whole tone of it, which was a few weeks ago. I have a fire escape in my bedroom. So, of course, living in a New York City apartment, it's not like I have any kind of balcony or terrace. So I thought, you know what? I want to hang out on my fire escape because it's faces the back of the building. So all of the other windows in this apartment, because when I look out of my other windows, what I see are the windows that are perfectly aligned with my neighbor from the building next door, because my building is actually sandwiched in between two buildings and they're all identical, connected by the front, although they're three separate buildings. So really, if I want to have any kind of view, that window in the back, that's where the courtyard is. So all of the backs of the building face that back. So, and I've hung out on my fire escape before. So a couple of weeks ago, I was like, you know what? It's the weather was changing. It wasn't that hot. And it just so happened that it had rained the day before. So I go out there and I noticed that in the corner, there were all of these leaves. And, of course, the fire escape was still a little wet because of all the heavy rain we had just had the day before. So, and I figured, it was rainy, windy. Oh, and there's this big, beautiful tree right outside of that window. So when I sit out there, I see the backs of the other buildings, but they're not right there, and they're not, so I'm not really looking inside anyone's apartment, and this big, beautiful tree obscures everything. So it's kind of neat, sometimes I just sit out there or sit on my windowsill and listen to music, that kind of thing. So I see all of these leaves there, and I was like, oh, I just assumed, that meant because of the wind blowing, they had all fallen off the tree because, it's already fall. So, and I thought, well, shit, I don't want to slip on that. So I took the little brush that I had and I brushed them off and, just let them fall to the ground, because that part of the building, the back of the building is where all the trash is. And, there's leaves all over the floor anyway. So I did that and I hung out there, didn't think anything of it. But then it was the next day, I had the window a little open and I'm hearing all of this noise, this kind of crazy kind of loud sound. And I look at the window and there's this fucking squirrel that's on my screen looking into my apartment, and I look at this squirrel and this bitch looked like she wanted to kill me. And I was like, oh my Lord, what is up with this fucking squirrel? And why is she yelling at me? I didn't think anything of it. So, and then I was like, scoot, and she ran away. So then fast forward, it was a couple of days later, I'm like, oh, let me go back out there. And I see this mountain of leaves in that same corner. And I was like, what the fuck? Now it had rained again. And, and I noticed that there were a lot less leaves on the tree. So I just assumed that they had fallen, back on the fire escape, and that the wind just blew them in their position that way. So I thought. So I was like, here I go again with these fucking leaves. Let me brush them off. So I opened the window, I opened the screen, and then, and I had my little brush and I was going to, brush it off. And then all of a sudden I hear this crazy kind of chucking sound, and I look at the tree, and, the tree's pretty big. I'm on the 4th floor. So you could imagine, the trunk is all the way down there and it goes even past my window. And I look to see where the sound is coming from, and there's this fucking squirrel on one of the branches, and that bitch was looking at me like she was about ready to kill me, and she was like all like in a position, like even with one of her front legs up, like really ready to attack me. And I was like, oh my Lord, what the hell is going on? And then it occurred to me, oh shit, I think that's like her little nest that she's building. So then I like felt kind of bad because I was like, oh Lord, did I jack up this bitch's home a couple of days ago, like not realizing? And you know, I'm an animal lover. But then I was sort of like, I wonder if squirrels like carry like rabies or like, you know, because then I'm thinking, okay, well, if now that I'm going to be opening the window, if this squirrel is going to be hanging out there, you know, and the wind is blowing, if this bitch has any kind of whatever, I don't know that I necessarily want that blowing into my apartment. But, and I'm going to be honest, even though it's just a little squirrel, that bitch looked so evil, and she looked like she was pissed off. I say she because, you know, in terms of pronouns, as far as I'm concerned, I call everyone she, whether you're male, female, gay, straight, male squirrel, female squirrel, you're a she in my world. So this bitch, she's looking at me, and she really looked like she was about ready to jump on me. So I was like, oh, fuck no. And, you know, because I had the screen open all the way up, I'm thinking this bitch is going to jump into my apartment. So I was like, you know what? I can't deal with this right now. So I'm stressing out. So I like close the screen, and I'm like, ah, shit, now what? You know, and it's like right there, the fire escape. So, and I'm thinking, but I like hanging out on my fire escape, and I don't want all these like leaves and shit and having some squirrel there. So, and I'm speaking to my sister on the phone, and I was like, do you know if hey Wenji, I'm like, do you know if these damn squirrels carry any kind of like rabies, or, you know, you always hear that with like with raccoons or whatever. And I'm just thinking, you know, they're out there, they're going to have any kind of like shit that I don't want right outside my window. And she was like, well, I'm not sure about this. She said, but think about it. Like, it's a fire escape, and God forbid, like if suddenly, you know, there's a fire or anything like that where suddenly I have to go running out of the apartment. She was like, you don't necessarily want to have anything there. I said, well, that kind of makes sense. So then I was like, all right, so you know what? Let me just get rid of that, you know. But she did say, check and make sure that there's no babies in there. Cause I thought, maybe like she's building this nest cause she's having, you know, going to give birth. Cause that's what had happened with the Bye Bye Birdie story in my parents' air conditioner. So, but I looked and there were no babies in there. So, and by now like 10 minutes had gone by. So then I opened the screen again, and the second I opened that screen, the squirrel suddenly appeared out of nowhere back on that same branch. But this time, this bitch was even closer to me and yelling at me. And I was like, oh, shit. And I was like, and I felt kind of bad. So I was like, you know, what do I do? Do I get rid of it? Do I not? And then I'm thinking to myself, why am I afraid of a squirrel? So I said, you know, I know what I'm going to do. So I closed the screen again, and I put on like this heavy coat, and I put on my mask, and I put on these big gloves. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to lift up the screen about this much, about maybe 6 inches, and have my pail and just stick my hand through there. Because I figure in case if this bitch tries to jump on me, you know, at least I'm protected. And then, you know, if I see her coming at me, it's easier for me to just pull away and close the screen. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like starting to brush all that shit off, and then all of a sudden this bitch is really going crazy. And then I look, and I swear to God, suddenly she was like right there, like, you know, like the camera's there. She was maybe like, I don't know, 10 feet from me. And then all of a sudden when I look, I'm like, it kind of sounded like it was in stereo, or like, and I looked, and there were 2 more squirrels. So now there's 3 squirrels on various branches, like all positioned, ready to attack my ass, yelling at me, leave my fucking home alone. And I was like, oh no, bitch. And so I was like, you know what? Fuck you. And I'm yelling at them, you fucking bitches, go get your own, go get another home. And as I'm yelling at them and they're yelling at me, sounds ridiculous, right? But I'm like fighting with 3 squirrels. I'm like brushing the shit off so like quickly, because I was like, these bitches are gonna get me. So I was able to get it all off. Like, you ain't never seen a bitch brush leaves as fast as I did. It took me about not even a minute, and all of that was gone. And then I like closed the window, I closed the screen, and I closed the window, and I was like, I can't. And then I like felt a little bad about it, But then at the same time, I was like, well, serves you right, bitch. Who told you to try to move in on my shit? You don't pay rent here, I do. So fast forward, it's like I closed the window and I was like, I don't even want to look at them, because then I was feeling a little bad, but honey, not that bad. And this was just about, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, not even a couple of weeks ago. So now what I do every day, I've like gotten into this habit of like every day, I like open the window or at least like lift the blinds up, and I look to make sure that like there's no leaves forming there. Cause I thought, you know what, before I let this bitch create cause it was a huge monster of leaves. So I was like, she worked her ass off to get this nest to look like this. And here I am fucking her shit up. So I said, you know what, every day I'm going to look and make sure that like she's not starting to form that. And if I even see a couple of scattered leaves, I just like brush them off. So the good news is there weren't any babies in there. She doesn't come around anymore. She didn't try building anything. But it's funny too, because then a couple of days later, I went, I always take the trash out every day because, I'm just a neat freak like that. And of course, where the trash is in the back, that's where where my window is with the fire escape. So I happened to look up. I don't know. I just looked up because I said, I wonder where Shirley went. I call her Shirley. And I didn't see that, but then I looked at the building next to mine because I could see the back of those buildings as well. And then I noticed on the top floor, the same exact spot of where my fire escape is, but one building over, I saw all of these leaves, and I was like, oh, thank God this bitch decided to build a home elsewhere. She leaves me alone, and now she's someone else's problem. So I was happy about that. At least she didn't go very far. She just moved one building over. Shit, this is my third apartment in the same building. So I was like, oh, Shirley, yay, you're still around. So I kicked your ass out, but I don't like roommates. I don't like anyone living with me. I don't even like squirrels living on my fire escape. But, I'm glad that she's there. So, and I'm pretty sure it's the same squirrel that like most days when I go out there, I see her running around and like gathering shit and like going up to her new home. So I was like, oh, she's well and she's alive, but she's out of my hair. So anyway, I just kind of thought it was a funny story. Now I'm like, it's ironic that I keep having all these fucking animal issues, birds, squirrels. I'm afraid to think what animal story is going to happen next that I'm going to have an issue with. But if and when that happens, you guys will be the first to know. So, okay, that was the point of this. I'm not going to ask, like, normally at the end of the video, I'm like, well, what are your thoughts? Has this ever happened to me? Well, I guess I could ask that. Do any of you guys have any funny animal stories? There's no real, like, moral to this story other than, the fact that I think it's a kind of cute, funny story, and somehow animals love me. They keep gravitating towards me. So, anywho, alrighty. I don't know if I did mention, but I usually do at the beginning, but today is Thursday, October 22nd. It is about going on 4:30 p.m. So, all right, guys, stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for always being here with me and for tuning in and for indulging me and listening to my fun stories. Alrighty, love you guys. See you soon. Bye.